At my sister's engagement party, my uncle laughed heartily. "Watch your wallet disappear," I muttered back, discreetly canceling the venue and freezing the card. He raised his glass, still chuckling. There's always someone who doesn't quite fit. The table burst into laughter, dismissing it as a playful jab. I scanned the room, taking it all in. Delicate napkins, sparkling juice glasses, and an excess of pastries no one touched. Everyone was dressed flawlessly, acting as if old scars were healed. My smile was empty. "Unneeded people are easy to remove," I whispered, easing my chair back and slipping out unnoticed. No one followed, not my mother, not my father, not even my sister, the heart of the evening's celebration. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was a nervous waiter, a guy I recognized from high school. "What's happening?" "Everything's collapsing," he said. I pressed for details. He described how the staff were told to stop serving, the DJ left early, and the lights dimmed during the first dance. "Perfect," I replied and ended the call. None of them, not even my sister with her perfect smile and rehearsed laugh, knew I'd been planning this for months. Not out of malice or anger, but because I was exhausted from being the family's safety net. This didn't begin with the engagement. It went back further. It went back before the loan she never returned, before they forgot me in a family photo, before she looked at me last Christmas and said, "You know you're not really needed, right?" I stayed quiet. I played the part. I kept covering expenses. I showed up when no one else did. I swallowed my pride as the dutiful son and brother until that night when I was called unnecessary. The word stung like a knife scraping metal. Unnecessary is what they label someone they've already replaced but haven't bothered to inform. Once you realize you've been pushed aside, you stop caring. This didn't start with a dramatic betrayal. It began with, "Can you help me out? Just this once." The first time Sophia asked for money, she was in tears, saying her rent was late and she didn't want our parents to know. She'd lost her job and needed a lifeline. That same day I sent her the funds. She never brought it up again. The next time it was a smaller amount, promised to be repaid soon. That deadline passed, then weeks, then nothing. I never said no. That was my mistake. I was the older brother, the backup plan, the one they called when things fell apart. I lived far enough to be ignored, but close enough to be summoned when bills stacked up. When Dad needed surgery and the better equipment wasn't covered, I paid. When Mom wanted to surprise Sophia with a better car, I co-signed. When their furnace broke in winter, my phone pinged at midnight with a payment request. Their response was either silence or entitlement, as if they deserved it. At first, I told myself this was family loyalty. That's what you do for loved ones, right? I thought if I kept giving, they'd eventually see me as more than a resource. I was wrong. The first real blow came when Sophia got engaged. I learned about it through a glossy social media post, her staged proposal on a rooftop as her fiancé slid a lavish ring onto her finger. Juice sprayed, a drone hummed above, and the caption read, "I said yes, ready to celebrate with those who matter most." I stared at it, checking for a missed call. There wasn't one. That night their group chat buzzed, not the one I was in, but another. I only found out because Mom accidentally sent me a screenshot meant for their inner circle. I wasn't included. Then came the dinner. I got a last-minute invite to a small gathering at our aunt's house. When I arrived, Sophia gave me a look like I'd spoiled her moment. "Didn't expect you to show," she said. Our uncle poured sparkling juice and made a loud joke. "Too many of us? Someone's the odd one out." Everyone laughed. I didn't. I started noticing strange charges on my credit card. A large sum for floral arrangements from a local shop. Another for a venue deposit. Another for an extravagant cake. These hit a card I hadn't used in months, one I'd shared with my parents for emergencies during the pandemic. I called the florist. "Hello, this is Claire from the flower shop. Is this for Sophia's wedding?" I didn't answer. I hung up. Days later, I saw my name in a social media comment untagged. A distant cousin wrote under Sophia's bridal shower photos, "Excited to meet your brother." Sophia replied, "Oh, you won't. He's not part of this story." My bank statement told a different tale. The final straw was the group gift. A week before the engagement party, Mom sent a cheerful email. "We're all pitching in for Sophia's surprise honeymoon. Since you're far, I put you down for a contribution. Send it when you can. Love you." I didn't respond. I didn't lash out. I watched. I kept records. Not with hidden cameras, but with screenshots, receipts, and emails, proof of how they saw me. Like Dad's text to Sophia, "Don't worry. I told him he's busy that weekend. He won't come," like her fiancé's message to a friend. "Her brother's a burden, don't bring him up. They say he stirs trouble," like Mom's post. "So proud of our girl. This wedding's for those who have always been there." Even after all that, I kept paying until the engagement party. It was at a vineyard outside town. Tables covered in fine cloth, twinkling lights, a live band. A guest book with a vintage typewriter for notes. I drove there in silence, not because I had nothing to say, but because I was done talking to those who wouldn't listen. There were a dozen place settings. I was the extra. Uncle joked someone's always the spare. I scanned the table, Sophia in white, Mom glowing, Dad already acting strange. Friends, cousins, elders, all smiling. No one looked at me. I smiled anyway. Spares are easy to cut, I said softly and stood. I left, not with anger, not loudly, just done. An hour later, the venue went dark. The DJ stopped mid-song. Staff said the payment was declined. Something about a frozen card and a flagged account. The juice stopped flowing. The cake never arrived. The photographer left unpaid. Someone checked the booking, canceled weeks earlier. I didn't ruin anything, I just stopped funding it. I'd been the one bankrolling it all. They didn't notice. Or maybe they assumed I'd keep paying, invited or not. But when I walked away, they lost more than a guest. They lost their lifeline. They lost my compliance. They tried to smooth things over with game tickets. Front row seats to a sold-out match. Local team versus state rivals. The kind Dad bragged about watching with true fans. Mom texted, let's start fresh. Seats for everyone. Come enjoy some juice. No drama, we miss you. No drama. Charming, I agreed not to reconcile but to end it cleanly. At the stadium gate, Sophia was taking selfies with a giant foam finger, acting like nothing happened. Mom smiled as if we were still a perfect family. Dad handed me a hot dog like it was a peace offering. Try to have fun, he said, heading to his seat. I sat 2 seats apart. Not out of spite, but because distance was my only calm. The first half passed with cheers, flat juice, and fake cheese. Dad shouted at the refs like he was part of the team. Sophia streamed with a caption, family night, feeling blessed. I wasn't in her frame. I waited. Halftime neared, and with food lines crowded, they couldn't slip away. 15 minutes before the break, I stood and said, let's get food. I've got something to say. Dad looked confused. Mom tensed. Sophia rolled her eyes. We walked to the food stands, the air heavy with the scent of fried food and stale ketchup. I picked a table off to the side, quiet enough to talk, loud enough for others to hear. You wanted peace? A real talk? Fine, but not on your terms anymore. Sophia sipped her drink and smirked. Another lecture. I opened my phone and showed a folder. See this? I turned the screen to them. Floral charges, venue deposits, cake payments, all on my emergency card. Remember that, Mom? She stared at the table. I wasn't even invited, but I paid for neighborhood. I renovated properties and rented them out affordably, all under a business name unconnected to me. It wasn't about riches. It was about creating something enduring. Here's the twist. Marcus's company was targeting that same area for a major development. I'd seen their plans. They needed my properties to pull it off. I wasn't just some guy messing around online. I was the landowner. 3 days later, I got a call from an unfamiliar local number. I almost ignored it, but answered. Hello, this is Laura Stein from Crestview Realty, the voice said. We're working on a property acquisition for a development in the Westfield area. You're listed as the managing partner for Horizon Ventures LLC. We'd like to discuss purchasing your properties on Carver Street. I leaned back, smiling. I've been waiting for this. I stayed polite. I'm listening. She launched into a polished pitch. Big figures, early plans, vague talk of community benefits. I let her speak, nodding occasionally until she said, the project is led by Sable and Partners. You'd be working with their director, Marcus Keller. There it was. I thanked her, said I'd review the offer, and hung up. The next day, I emailed a polite rejection, copying my lawyer and property manager. I didn't counter or negotiate, just said I wasn't selling. 12 hours later, Marcus called. Ethan, he said, voice tight. What are you doing? I played dumb. What do you mean? Don't play games. Horizon Ventures, that's you, isn't it? Since when do you own property in Westfield? I paused. Since you were still leasing your fancy car. Why? He pressed on, and I pictured him pacing in some corner office, gripping a desk. This isn't a game, he said. This is my career, my promotion, my team. You're sabotaging it to spite me. I stared out my window at the city below. I'm not sabotaging anything, I said. I just don't want to sell, it's not personal. He laughed bitterly. Don't lie, you're still mad I called you a freeloader. I took a breath. No, Marcus. I'm just done tolerating people who disrespect me. That includes you. You're being petty, he snapped. No, I said firmly. You're just not used to me having the upper hand. If your company didn't do their research and missed that I own part of your site, maybe you're the one who needs to rethink who's the professional here. He went quiet, then softer. You could ruin me, I replied. You already ruined me once, my confidence, my pride in a family that saw me as second best. Maybe it's your turn. I hung up. The fallout was quick. Marcus didn't call again, but my lawyer forwarded a second offer, nearly double the first. I declined. A third came with a deadline and a note from Sable's managing partner. I ignored it. Then Dad called out of the blue. We hadn't really talked in months beyond holiday texts. He skipped small talk. Ethan, what's going on with Marcus's project? Did he ask you to call? I replied. He sighed. He's under a lot of pressure. You know how work can be. I know what power looks like, I said, a long pause. You've made your point, he said quietly. He was wrong to humiliate you, but this doesn't just hurt him. It affects us all. That old family pressure hit me, the same family that laughed when Marcus mocked me, that called him the only success, that handed me a trash bag. You want to talk about appearances? I said, voice low. Let's talk about what it looked like when your son was shamed in front of everyone and you said nothing. He started to speak, but I cut him off. I'm not selling, Dad. If that's hard for Marcus, maybe he needs to learn not everything's handed to him. The call ended. My heart pounded, not from anger, but from something sharper. I'd broken the unspoken rule, keep the peace even at your own expense. This time I wasn't paying the price. Thanksgiving arrived, the first I'd attended in years. I planned to skip it, but Grandma, 84 and sharp as ever, left a voicemail. Ethan, you don't need to prove anything, but I'd love to see you. Bring that wine you always choose. I'll save you a seat. So I went with a bottle of red and a pie. Mom greeted me like nothing had happened, but the house felt tense. Marcus sat at the table's head, fake smile on, next to a man in a sleek suit with a flashy watch, corporate backup clearly. Ethan Keller, Bruce Larson. He introduced himself, shaking my hand firmly, eyes sizing me up. Marcus stood slowly. Glad you came, he said. Wouldn't miss Grandma's apple tart, I replied. Dinner was awkward. Small talk about jobs and vacations filled the air, but the tension between Marcus and me was thick. His fiancée made a snide remark about people who don't cooperate. I sipped my drink. Grandma cut in, staring at her. Funny how some forget who laid the groundwork. Silence. Marcus laughed it off. Always with the riddles, Grandma. She didn't smile. Not a riddle. After dessert, Bruce pulled me into the study, closing the door. I'll be direct, Ethan. Sable's offering 3.5 times market value, final offer. But it's not about the money, is it? I leaned against a shelf. Go on. Your portfolio's impressive, he said. But blocking this doesn't help you long term. You're burning bridges, I smiled. I don't need those bridges, Bruce. I don't need the money, the deal, or Marcus's approval. If you want my land, build around it or wait. I'm not selling. He stared, unaccustomed to refusal. That's final, final. Marcus was waiting outside. How'd it go? He asked Bruce. Your brother's not budging, Bruce said. Marcus's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake, Ethan. No, I said. You made it a game when you called me a freeloader, made me clean up, humiliated me, and trashed me online. I'm done letting it slide. He stepped closer. You'll regret this, I smiled. Maybe, but not today. I walked away, sat next to Grandma, and dealt cards, letting the room simmer. The consequences hit fast. Without my land, the Westfield project faltered. Investors pulled out, the board asked questions, and Marcus was demoted to a lesser role, client relations, a step down. No announcement, but Liam sent me a LinkedIn screenshot of Marcus's new title. Gossip spread. My parents, once distant, started texting more, saying they were proud, though never apologizing for the past. I didn't need their approval anymore. I'd built a life I loved my way. Marcus and I hardly speak now. At family gatherings, he keeps it light, avoiding real estate. The last time we met, he joked, "Some people don't play nice." I raised my glass. "Some people don't play fair." He said nothing. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's letting someone face the consequences of their actions, realizing the person they mocked held the power all along. Next time someone hands me a trash bag, I'll hand them my business card. What are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with Ethan's actions, or do you see it differently? Share your perspective below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories like this.